Hey, welcome back. So yep, new year, new setup. And after my more recent setup video, you might be surprised that I'm actually going for a whole new setup. And the reason is, after riding that Nyjah board, just everything felt off. It changed everything for me. It confirmed some of the things that I've been thinking, which is that I want to go down to a narrower board. I've been thinking this for a long time. And also that I might want to have a slightly lighter board. So I've been doing a job that is close to the Drive skate shop, and I walked in and I saw this on the wall. An old school Cliver graphic on a Strangelove board. So it used to be a 101 board, and it's even signed by Sean Cliver, but I'm gonna skate it anyways. And it's also the perfect board to get me to actually step down to an 8. So it's labeled an 8, but it is 8.125 right here, and it has a slight oval shape to it. So right here, it's like 8 1/16, and down at the bottom here, it's like about 8 1/16, getting closer to 8. So it just has the very slightest taper to it. The nose is a kind of triangular blunt shape. So it tapers a little bit, but then it's kind of blunt at the top. And the tail is a nice tapered shape. It's a very short tail. It is 6 3/8 long back here, so quite short. A lot of what I liked about the Nyjah board was actually how short the tail was, because it made my kickflips and tray flips really easy. But on the Nyjah board, the trucks were situated too far back for me. The nose on this board is massive at over 7 inches. It's 7 1/16. So with an overall length of 31 5/8, that makes this a very, very big nose. And again, part of the reason that's possible is because it has a very short tail. The wheelbase is 14 1/4, but it actually measures 14 3/16. So the wheelbase should be just right. This is the same mold as the board that I was skating, the H mold. So it's a PS pressed board. So I'm not changing the mold, even though I loved the flat concave of the Nyjah board. So what we're really doing here is we're just shrinking the board down so that I can flip it faster and easier. I'm going to be riding some independent hollows with the cast plate, so I'm not changing the height of my setup really. I'm just changing the weight a little bit, because these weigh in at about 360, like 358 grams, and they're the 139s, so a much narrower truck. So it's again going to flip faster. I think that will help me, because this nose is so steep that I think it's actually going to make switch and nollie tricks a little bit difficult. But I think the tail is going to snap perfectly and probably have a nice tray flip, nice kick flips, nice frontside flips. So I'm used to dealing with noses feeling a little bit steeper than my preference, but I really like to have the tail be perfect, because I spend more time doing tricks off the tail anyways. The wheels are 52 millimeter Spitfire Classics Formula 4 99A. I actually wish that I had some 51s. I would kind of like to step down my wheel size a tiny bit too, but you know what? They'll be 51s soon enough. The only difference is they won't be that teensy bit narrower that a 51 would be. Also, because the 51s often have a red graphic here, I think that would look way cooler on this board than the green ones, but it is what it is. You can't get too fussy, or can we? Grip's gonna be Jessup, and hardware, Shorty's 7/8 Silverados. We'll get into why I'm using this hardware. And Quantum, what are these ones? The black ones, the Quantum Atoms. These are a nice fast bearing. I've had a bunch of sets of them. I really enjoy them. So, okay, so the grip. I don't feel a huge difference in performance between Mob and Jessup. What I do notice about Jessup is that it will actually stick when you're applying it on a cold winter day. Mob has perforations, so that helps you not get bubbles. Jessup has no perforations, but I think that's why it sticks better. I'm pretty sure the perforations make it dry out a little faster. I have been enjoying the concave of the H mold. Like I said, it's flatter than the decks I was riding, but after that Nyjah, man, I want to skate that concave again. But I don't get the wrinkles on this mold that I was with the deluxe boards. It was so hard to not get a wrinkle on the nose because the nose had so much concave. I love this silver tool with the little rasp thingy right here. You got to be careful you don't mash it into the corners when you're going through that concave, or you'll just put an unwanted scratch on it. I'm very fussy about my grip. Okay, wish I had a proper knife, but I don't. We'll get it done anyways. I'm using the sharp part of the blade. So if you put a little tension on like this, it'll cut easier. Especially if it's a really dull blade. Almost there. Perfect. No imperfections. And a lot of people sand their grip, like the edges at this point. I don't do that. I don't do anything to it. Like, it's done. I've never had a problem from not sanding it. I hate the way it looks when people sand the edges and you can see that it's like a little whiter around the edge. If that's what you're used to, you'll probably like that look because it's the look of a new board, but I don't like it. I like it to look just like this. I like to use a nail or a screw to poke the holes through. Because I'm a carpenter, I always have them around. And I also always go like this to ream the hole out a little bit. That way it's way easier to put the bolts through. Okay, next, the hardware. 7/8 Silverados. The reason these are so perfect is because they will work on forged or cast plates. So it's a one-size-fits-all hardware. I do have a bit of madness in how I like to put them on. I have one right here. That's where my kickflip toe goes. And the other one I go diagonally across. And then like this. So this is on my nose. It helps me tell the front from the back for a little bit. I don't usually need it because the nose is big, but it's just the thing I like to do. And soon enough, this paint wears off and they all look silver anyways. So I always take a second to try and get as much of the sand from the grip tape off the bolts so that it doesn't mess up with the little nylon lock nut that's in the bolt. Pardon me, that's the nut, not the bolt. So as you can see, there's not a lot poking through, but once we fasten them down, it'll be perfect. If I can get my cold hands to actually get these on. There we go. First one's always the hardest. The only downside to this hardware is that this part is so small, if you don't hold this totally square, it'll slip and they get stripped over time. So you can't be off angle at all. It has to be totally square when you're tightening these up. I did choose Allen key because it looks better. I don't really care. Phillips or Allen, both are fine to me. See, that's the slipping I'm talking about. It's a little bit annoying, but it's worth it to have such a nice trim hardware. In my opinion, this is the best hardware available. It never loosens. It looks the best. So even on a cast Indy plate, check that out. Almost nothing sticking out. And Indy's cast plates are the thickest base plates out there, I think. And so it's just the tiniest bit. So if you went to a forged plate, you would have, you know, a couple mils of this bolt sticking out, but no big deal. Like, it's such a good looking hardware. Honestly, sometimes I actually prefer the 1-inch hardware just because it has a wider nut and it never slips or strips. So even though I love the way this one looks the best by far, and I like that it works for both cast and regular plates, I do find the 1-inch less problematic with the slipping. I'm not kidding you guys. I've tried a lot of different hardware and I have had sets of shorties that I'm still using that are 3 years old. Like, they literally are the best hardware on the market, hands down. So if you're buying a complete and they have shorties available, get them. It's well worth it. You'll have that hardware for years. Sponsor me, shorties, seriously. I'm so tired of having to spend the $3 to get a set. One of the other things I forgot to mention that's actually a pretty big deal is because the head on Shorty's bolts is so narrow, it never mashes your grip tape out and makes it look gross on a new setup. You know, sometimes it'll either twist or it'll push it too far apart. So Shorty's doesn't do that either. That's one of the other reasons it's the best hardware on the planet. I go until it's flush or just maybe half a mil above. And I'm just as fussy to make sure that I'm not seeing too many threads on each bolt. I can't stand it when you can see more thread on one bolt than the other. Okay, the wheels and bearings. So I'm not too fussy about this, in spite of all of the intense fussing I just did over the hardware. But the grip tape and hardware is one of the things you have to look at all the time. So the washers are really important. Use them, one on each side. I'm always a graphics in guy. I've ridden them out here or there. On conicals, I don't mind them out, but generally, no. I like my graphics in. It's just a cleaner look. And I actually like the writing on Spitfire Classics. I just think it's, you know, it is a graphic, technically, but it's pretty mellow. And I'm just really attached to these wheels in general. I've also tried a lot of different wheels. Classics are the only one that I really like, that really seem to work for me. All the other ones take some adjusting. Classics feel natural to me all the time. I'd say, if anything, I could even handle a very slightly skinnier wheel than these 52mm Classics because I've gone down to an 8-inch truck. So I'd get a little more grind clearance on a slightly skinnier wheel, but it's okay. Let's stop fussing too much. That's looking pretty good. Okay, you guys, this is set up. This is my first Christmas complete that I am actually gonna ride. So you've maybe seen me set up some Christmas completes in some of these videos, but they weren't setups that I ever intended to ride. It was just for a video. This is the first Christmas complete I've set up in, I don't know how long, that I actually have every intention of riding. I think it's been over 2 years. So, yep, new year, new setup. I haven't had the name Clyde Singleton on one of my boards in over 25 years. I'm pretty pumped on this. Feels pretty steep. I think I got a 1 on the stack. This is a super steep board. It's probably gonna last a long time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And I gotta grind some concrete first. I'm kind of superstitious about that on brand new trucks. I don't like grinding skate park ledges. I like to grind real concrete first. You guys, the bushings are way too squeaky to film, and I forgot to bring a skate key, so I can't put wax in the pivot cups. But we'll film a couple of tricks in this first session so you can see if it's working for me or not. So I don't think I was clear enough as to why I actually changed setups. After riding the Nyjah board, I was completely recalibrated. Once I tried my regular 8.5 setup, it just felt massive, clunky. I didn't like the pot feel. Like I said, completely recalibrated by the Nyjah board. So I knew, you know what? I'm gonna try a different setup. Without changing it too much, I'll stick to the same trucks, I'll stick to the same wheelbase, the same mold. We're just gonna shrink it down. So that was the idea behind this. But any time that I set up a whole new board, I'm guaranteed for a bout of madness until I figure the setup out and get everything on there that I actually like. So I only lasted one session on the hollows. It just felt like it was popping too light. So I switched to Indy Standards, and then the pot feel was right, but it still didn't feel easy to skate. That's what I was really going for by shrinking my setup down in width, was I was thinking it was going to flip easier and just be much more manageable, but it still felt heavy and tall, and now because it was half an inch narrower, it felt tippy. So it wasn't the feeling at all that I was going for. Lasted one session on the Indy Standards. I tried Thunders for about 5 minutes. It wasn't right, and I knew there was only one truck left that might cure my madness. So you guys, this is what it is. I went to Venture Lows, and honestly, it feels so good. So I only did 2 sessions on it before I realized that this is what I had to have. 51 millimeter Formula 4 Classics, so I even shrunk my wheel down. And when I went to Supra to get the Venture Lows, they had to forklift a full box off one of the top shelves because nobody buys these, so they just sit on a shelf. Even the 51 millimeter wheels were the last 2 in the warehouse, and I scooped them both up because it's so hard to actually find 51. Nobody goes that low. But once I had these on this board and I had my first session, I instantly knew it was the right truck, and it was what I was looking for. The board felt light, easy to flip around, everything was good. So here's a few clips from my first session on this board. It's not necessarily my top tier footage, but you might be able to see what I'm talking about. So here's what I instantly felt from that session. Back tails, the ledge felt lower. I don't usually try back tails on that portion of that ledge because it feels kind of tall and it's a lot of work. But even though this tail is so small and pointy, this board just felt so light and wanted to jump right up onto that ledge and stay stuck to my feet really easy. The kick flips were coming straight up to my foot, even in those super old worn out dunks. They were still no problem. 360 flips generally were staying right under me. I'm not doing the huge jump forwards 45-degree thing so bad. The nollie nose slides were feeling really easy. Usually when I have the 8.5 on Indy Standards, it's a bit of a bear to jump that into that ledge. Even though it's a low ledge, it's just a lot of work for me. But on this, it just felt really easy. So the point is, I actually managed to get exactly what I was looking for. I wanted a very responsive board with a good feedback on my flicking foot. I wanted it to feel small. I wanted it to feel controlled. So the lowness of these trucks helps it feel actually really controlled, even though it's an 8-inch board. Whereas when I was on the Indy Standard, it just felt tall and tippy. I couldn't shake that feeling. So I did film a little bit more. Here's some footage after I've gotten used to it, skating the Ultimate Warehouse, and I tried to do some tricks that I don't usually do because I just filmed the flat ground session at the Ultimate Warehouse in one of my previous videos. So anyways, here that is. So I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I know you'll tell me in the comments what you think of my footage on this versus the 8.5 board. I feel way more comfortable because it's low and not just narrow. It doesn't actually feel really skinny to me. Like, I thought going down to an 8 was gonna be kind of a mistake and feel way too skinny, but actually feels really good. The 51 millimeter wheels are feeling great. I haven't skated them much in the streets. They're gonna feel a bit small for sure. But either way, these are feeling great, and I plan to take them down to the axle before I decide to skate either another truck or another set of these. So yeah, probably be about 2-3 months on these at least. Anyways, I'm really glad I made this decision. I've actually been itching to skate these trucks for about 2 years and just couldn't convince myself to do it. And now that I have, I'm really grateful I have. So Venture Low gang, let me know in the comments who you are, how much you like them, and why you like them. It's a special truck. It has a special place in my heart from the 90s and early 2000s when literally every single pro rode Venture Lows. Anyways, you guys, that's it. The daylight's running out here and I want to have a little session myself. So I hope you guys are doing really well. And I haven't said this one in a long time, but may your next session be your best session yet. Some of you guys loved that one, but I really mean it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Till the next one.